right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Women's Health Podcast with Kim and Dr. C. This is Dr. C, the Women's Health Doc, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Kim, the Women's Health Physio. Kim, please say hello.
Hello, Doc. Hello.
It's been so long. It's been so long. It's been forever. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy that it's actually happening right now. You have your tea. What you drinking?
Actually, it's just warm water today.
Whoa, that's not tea.
That's hot water.
All week I've been having ginger because I've been on this. I went on a kind of retreat, fast, isolation period where essentially for a couple of days I just took some time off and just decided I want to be by myself, and the only thing I had in there was a kettle, water, and a cup, and some ginger tea sachets.
For the whole
ones.
3 days?
Yeah.
That's intense.
You know.
And how did you come out?
You know, the truth is when I came out, I felt really exhausted and weak.
Hungry?
More weak than hungry, because I mean, it's funny because after initially, probably up to the second day, it's very intense hunger, especially for me because I tend to like eating at night. So it's very intense hunger. But then after a while, it becomes less hunger, but more fatigue. Not fatigue, but just weakness.
It does not having the energy because
it does lack energy. Yeah, it does lack energy. I think I was a little bit salt deprived too. Because when you're fasting for a long time, and you're drinking water, so you can become a little hyponatremic. Fortunately, I'd actually brought in some salt with me, so I had a couple granules of Himalayan salt.
Well, I don't promise anybody that. I'm not promising anybody that. You know, I don't have anything to keep me going for 3 days. I don't have any extra stores, you know, so nothing for my body to really rely on. You would see a corpse at the end of that.
So stay there, right? It disappear. Like, where's Kim? You know,
where did Kim go?
And she said she was going to be isolating and retreating for 3 days, and we just didn't have seen her since.
That would be it. So yeah.
But I'm happy though, because I think, you know, like for me, I was just, you know, going, work, everything, you know, work, business, church, all the different things you're doing, and sometimes you just find like it's nonstop. You know, and you move from one thing to the next, and your mind also goes into a kind of overdrive where it's just always going. You know, and sometimes it's hard to turn off your mind because there's just constant stimulation, whether it's a phone, whether it's, you know, you have some work to catch up on, so forth and so forth. So I think it's good every now and then to kind of get to the place where you just take some time off, even if you're not going necessarily go on a fast like I did.
Right.
You're gonna just get away, you know, and be by yourself. And you know, one of the things I actually enjoyed was I had obviously no electronics or anything. The only book I had there was the Bible. And I had some paper and a pen. And I also had no artificial light, right? So the only light that was coming into the room was from the window. So what it meant was that the only time I had to, if I wanted to read anything or write anything, right, you know, and I really got it showed me a couple of things that I found interesting. One was that it helped to kind of, well, first of all, I understood what the Bible says when it, you know, work while it is day because the night
I'm
coming when no
telling
man,
you.
when no man can work.
We don't
You know,
understand that because we have light.
we have light. But when I understand for the first time, I got an idea because I remember writing something. I was actually got a nice little project that I was working on that came to me, and I started writing everything that came to me. I started writing down,
Mm-hmm.
and and I was like seeing the sun go down. I'm like, I'm running out of time.
Run out of time. gotta get in those last words.
Yeah, I'm hurry up, and and another day I was reading. I remember I was reading through the book of the book of Kings, First and Second Kings, and I was like, all right, let me see if I can finish this off. And the light is going down, and I can barely see, and I'm coming close to the window, you know, and so that was interesting. The other thing I found interesting as well, Kim, is that it in terms of my sleep and rest, I actually felt quite rested,
Mm-hmm.
because with the many different technologies we have, there's like this artificial way of keeping the day going. So even though
Yes.
it's night, to our brains it's still day because
Right.
ambient light is there. We are we have our phone lights, we have this light,
Mm-hmm.
and so consequently our minds don't rest. And
Right.
what I found interesting was, me, I'm not a big sleeper. But
Mm-hmm.
what
You
I found
slept
interesting, as soon as it started getting dark, I started feeling tired. Even though I've
oh
been sitting in this room the whole day, I didn't,
the
I
whole
mean,
day.
the whole day, I didn't go anywhere. It's not like I was up. The only thing I did is in the morning, I'd probably do some light exercise.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't go
Um,
outside?
no, just
Wow.
in the area, in that room, yeah. Mm.
Wow. But I've been reading about that, like how we wake up in the mornings and how that affects
Right.
us because we use like the alarm systems. So I was thinking about, I've been looking into it because I'm thinking about getting one of those daylight clocks. So
Mm.
instead of the terrifying iPhone alarm that startles you out of your sleep. This it gently starts with like birds chirping and what's supposed to mimic sunlight
Oh.
coming into your room to wake you up. And they found that that really helps in terms of your day, your stress levels, because you start the day with stress if you wake up with the alarm.
Mm.
And listen, iPhone alarm is so traumatic. Like, even if I hear it while I'm awake, I'm traumatized. Like I have PTSD from the alarm. So I mean, you got that naturally because you had the natural sunlight and the
Yeah,
birds and whatever sound you had around you, just that's waking you up.
yeah.
It's interesting that you speak about this rest because a lot of the studies, as it relates to like PCOS and metabolic syndromes for women, speaks to that just continuous, women, their mothers, their wives, they're working, they're doing all these things, and it's just so repetitive, like deciding what
Right,
to eat, picking up the kids, homework. It's never ending. Like the next day and the day before, it just merges. There's no break, there's no buffer in between. And so women are like in a constant state of stress,
right.
a constant state of stress where the body it really cannot manage that. So like when it comes to rest, the body gets no time to reset, to end one day and start another. We don't really have that in modernization. It's like a blessing and a curse. Because I can't
Yeah.
imagine not having real light, like having light, like the fake one. I need it.
No, yeah, we need it, but I think they what we there are consequent. So one of the things I always say, Kim, you hear me say this many times, that the solution to one problem invariably creates another.
Yeah.
Um, is that there are many benefits to the technologies that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Electricity transform the way we live in a very positive way.
Right.
Um, the problem though is that with every advancement, what we have to understand is that there is our bodies have to evolve evolve to that, to become
Right.
adjusted to that. Um, and we have to, without, regardless of how we view the concept of evolution, we know it's real. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's real. You know, whether or not we believe in whether we evolved from apes or not
Monkeys.
is a different story. But evolution is a real thing. That when people are
Right.
exposed to an environmental influence, over time you either adapt or you die.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's really what evolution is. That's the reason why people who grew up, came up in the near the equator, have darker skin than people who
Right.
grew up near the poles,
Mm-hmm.
because they're exposed to sunlight, more
Right.
more sunlight, and so therefore skin has more melanin. That's just evolution. So I'm putting that out there for those who say, "Oh, how come Doc talking about evolution?" For you to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you think about how we have evolved, we have had life without electricity far longer
Then
than
we
we have
had
had life with
electricity.
electricity.
Right.
So it means that every single one of us, there's something in our DNA that's evolved to function in the absence of electricity, in the presence of natural light. That is how
Mm-hmm.
we're evolved. And so consequently, the more we push the boundaries of what electricity and technology provides, the more we're going to find that our bodies may not be able to deal with those artificial changes, you know?
Right. So what do we do then? What would be like the ideal schedule for a woman to take on in order to create this balance between what's natural and normal to the human body versus the reality that we live in? Because we can't just shut out everything. It's basically impossible. So how do we create this balance?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question and a hard question. I'm not going to
I
tell you that it's
know.
easy to answer because, all right. So let's think about what would prevail for before, and then
Mhm.
let's see how we can see what prevails now and how we can find a middle ground. So
Right.
before all of this, before we had access to electricity and light and so forth, what will happen, for the most part, is that you will have night and you'll have day.
Day,
Okay.
right. Mm-hmm.
Essentially, at a certain time, the sun would start to rise, and that's when we would automatically begin to wake up. The animals
Right.
began to move around. We hear the cocks crowing. We hear
Yeah.
and we say, okay, it's morning. And
Funny
then
you say
now,
that.
eh?
Sorry to cut you, but
Go
funny you
ahead.
say that because now the cocks they seem to be off balance.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
like making noise the whole day.
Exactly, because
Is
even
it the
even
street
there,
lights?
even
Because
even their clock is turned off, right?
why are you making noise the entire day?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, maybe it's affecting them too.
It is.
So you get up now, and then you move. Then naturally now you begin to move around, and you do your activities, whatever you have to do, and then as the sun begins to go down, you wind down, and
Mhm.
usually, because when night comes, that's when predators hunt. You find
Right.
your way back into somewhere safe to shelter for the night, right? Whether
Right.
back it was in caves before, and then we learned to
Mm-hmm.
settle in, build houses and settlements.
Right.
So when the night comes, you go inside because you're no longer at an advantage. The ones who are at
Right.
an advantage are the big cats and the
With the nice
the
eyes that can
predator.
see in the dark, right?
Absolutely. So now you go in, right? And maybe at best what you'd have available to you was a fire,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which would allow you to cook or keep yourself warm, but it did not replace daylight.
Right.
And so consequently, your mind began to wind down until you went to sleep. Now, physiologically, we can see that in our bodies. Because when you get to the nighttime, for example, you realize there are certain things that happen. One, you have spikes in hormones like melatonin, right?
Right.
We know melatonin levels start to rise as we get into the nighttime. And melatonin is one of the key hormones that help us to feel sleepy. That's the reason why people even take melatonin as a sleep aid nowadays. And when you're sleeping, you find that the growth hormone levels fluctuate, which is also a very important for repair, cellular repair and growth. And then close to the morning, when you're to be getting up, you find that you have a spike in your cortisol levels, right? Which is a stress. We call it a stress hormone. And so cortisol actually goes up because what it does is that it allows us, even though we've been fasting all night, we still need to be able to go out and to hunt and to gather, right? So what cortisol does, right? So it spikes. And what that does is that it induces a transient state of insulin resistance, which allows our body to metabolize more glucose.
Got it.
You understand? Metabolize our stores to produce glucose. So whether we're burning fat, glycogen, whatever the source is, it allows us to produce more glucose. So we have glucose to go around and to hunt and together. You understand? And we and so therefore you get that cortisol spike.
Right.
And the assumption is that throughout the course of the day we get something to eat. And by the time we get to the evening, the cortisol levels go back down again.
Right.
So that's what we call it, diurnal variation in cortisol. So you realize our whole physiology has been adapted to night and day.
Day and night, right?
You understand?
And it's funny you say that, because if we're up all night or we're not sleeping or we're up until 12 or up to 1 doing work, doing things that's spiking our cortisol, then there's no time for that to go down. So then we're constantly in that state with a spiked cortisol. And then the iPhone alarm goes off and adds to that cortisol level.
Absolutely. You see, so you realize now that the hormonal balance can be thrown off. You know, I just got an epiphany a while ago. Remember to tell you about it afterwards. I don't want to break a train of thought on this speaker.
Because I also got an epiphany. So I'm here thinking now, why is it that based on the diseases that women have versus men, women's diseases, they're typically more metabolic, meaning that are we having a harder time adapting than men, or is it because we already have a hormone system going on why we seem to be adapting worse than men in terms of night and day, having electricity versus not having electricity?
No, listen, that's a very good question, Kim. Powerful question. What I would say, because you're saying that women's diseases seem to be more related to metabolic or hormonal issues than men's.
Right.
But I'm going to propose to you that that's not necessarily true. Yeah, I'm going to propose that it's not. I'm going to propose to you that it's the same.
Yeah.
But it's just that because women's hormonal patterns are more manifest and easily recognized clinically, that we're able to see it, right? And let's explore that concept for a while, that hypothesis. Right. So a woman goes through a well-recognized hormonal cycle, right?
Yes.
Where she will, have hormonal changes that eventually leads to her menstruating and having regular periods. And one of the signs of health is having a regular menstrual cycle, right? Which is, by the way, where the epiphany is about. So remind me to tell you about it, because I think it's going to be good.
You.
All right. Yes. So when that is disrupted, it's easy to see, because she expects to be having some menstrual loss every month and she's not seeing it. So something is wrong.
Right.
For men, that is not as obvious, because we don't go through that. Our cycle, yes, men do go through hormonal cycles, but it's not that obvious.
Got it.
You get what I'm saying? So let me show you how it manifests now. So when we talk about something like polycystic ovary syndrome, for example, it's actually a metabolic disorder.
Right.
with hormonal manifestations. Even though we tend to, as gynecologists, talk about it being a hormonal problem. You know, the classic thing the patient will tell you is that, oh, doctor say I have a hormone imbalance.
Right. It's definitely metabolic. And I need to rename it. You don't think so?
I believe so too. You know,
I think I need to rename it.
So it's actually a metabolic syndrome. And we know that in almost all the cases, the root cause is insulin resistance.
Right.
And when you have insulin resistance, you have high insulin levels because your body tries to compensate, producing more insulin to control your glucose. And the resultant effect is that those high insulin levels begins to have negative impacts on the ovarian function.
Right.
And some women just happen, their ovaries tend to be more sensitive than others, right?
Yeah.
So now, so that whole process now, insulin resistance leads to increased risk of diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol,
heart disease.
All of which leads later on to heart disease, cardiovascular complications, with the kidney disease, all the different things, right?
Long list.
The long list of things, right? Including high insulin levels, by the way, is associated with increased risk of cancer. So now the menstrual irregularity is just one feature. It's just because of the sensitivity of that woman's ovaries to high insulin levels, right? High insulin levels now triggers the ovaries to switch to produce more androgens, which is what causes the acne and the hair growth and the changes with hair loss and so forth, right? And also now what disrupts the eggs and causes them to not develop, which is why now you stop ovulating and you stop seeing a regular period.
Right.
But if you think about it, in all the other systems of the body, you're having issues.
Challenges as well, yeah.
Right. So now let's take away the ovaries now. You realize that the men are having the same problem.
Yeah, because they're having diabetes, they're having hypertension.
Right, you know. And in actual fact, it's actually advantageous for women, these hormonal manifestations. Reason being,
because they can have something to say that they need to change.
Exactly.
But the men have the high blood pressure and the diabetes too, and they're not changing. So
yeah, but listen to think about it, Kim. That's a downstream effect.
Oh, because the age that you realize, because like I was diagnosed with PCOS at 25.
Exactly.
So if I didn't have that obvious symptom, I would have diabetes. If I continued living the same way I was living, I would have diabetes or high blood pressure by 40. So that's what I got you.
Exactly. Which is why,
Perfect.
you know, one of the things that, you know, you've probably heard me say before, when I see patients, I say to them, this is actually a blessing that you're coming to see me with these irregular periods, because now we can really talk about the real problem.
Right. And you know, I have to highlight doctors whose approach is like yours, because many gynecologists for years would just say, oh, if you're not ready to get pregnant, you don't need to think about PCOS. You know, you need to worry about it right now if you're not planning to get pregnant.
Right.
But that's not true, because when you're ready to get pregnant, the problem is far worse. And you know, and not only it's not just about pregnancy, because your whole purpose as a woman is not, yes, we are having babies a very large part of being a woman, but it's not the only aspect of being a woman. So you need to be able to maintain a healthy and lead a healthy life. And with PCOS causing you fatigue, affecting your mental health, it really does affect how you're able to function as a human, right? So saying just wait until you're ready to get pregnant to figure it out is pretty ridiculous.
No, but you see, it comes from a lack of knowledge, though.
Yeah, it does.
Because if you think of PCOS just as a menstrual problem,
right, which is what you started off saying,
exactly,
which is where, you know, the conversation started from. So that just adds to what you were saying, and the importance of looking at it as more than a period problem or a hormone problem, because that is just a result of the actual
true
issue.
underlying problem. So if you think about it, this is we all have, this is a population problem.
It is.
Not a woman's, not a female problem.
It
It's
isn't,
a
right?
population problem whereby we're actually suffering because of metabolic dysfunction. And it just so happens that in women, it may manifest as PCOS.
Wow.
But for men, what happens, and I would say to women, okay, it's better for you to show up to see me at 25 and let's have this conversation now than showing up to see the cardiologist at 55.
Yeah.
Or the endocrinologist with
Totally.
diabetes at 45.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Or the
Yeah, I do.
nephrologist at 65 with renal failure.
Yeah.
So the reality of it is that, that's one of the things that allow, and in fact, women now are becoming more and more self-aware, health-aware, while men are still at the same place because they don't see it.
Right.
They
But
don't,
the
they don't
funny
see it.
thing is with men, male factor being an issue in terms of women getting pregnant, isn't that a sign now? Wouldn't
There
you
you
say
go.
that's a sign now?
Absolutely. I think, and ultimately what is going to happen is that we're going to begin to look more deeply into the metabolic implications.
When it affects men more. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying for men, I think when we begin to make the link between what we're seeing from a reproductive standpoint with what's happening from a metabolic standpoint, that's when we're really going to start paying attention.
But we need to finish with what women should do, like our schedule, because that's where we started and we never got there.
Yeah, so you wanted to, what should a woman do? What?
Yeah, like what would be reasonable? Because this is what my brain is thinking. And this is what I've tried to do in my life. I've not been very successful. But this is what I've tried to do is literally have an end and a start to my day, regardless of having light, regardless of the fact that I can turn on the light and read one more page, finish one more note of our patient, or regardless, have a time when you definitely say, this is it. No more screens, no more nothing. You start your nighttime routine, you wind down, you go to bed. And then you have the time that you're going to get up, because now, we can also get up before the sun comes up because we have light. So you have that time that you're going to get up, and then everybody in the home, they also honor that time, so that, because I could be sleeping and somebody turn on the light, and that's it for me, so basically that's what I think in my brain in terms of how women can go about helping to recreate this day and night system that can also help our metabolic system. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I think that's brilliant and a good way to look at it. I think just the same way that artificially our environment has been disrupted, our environment has been disrupted artificially, we have to artificially reconstruct our environment.
Reconstruct,
Yeah,
right.
I think that's the reality in this day and age. We have to reconstruct using sometimes artificial means as much as possible a natural environment for ourselves.
Right.
So we have to have, this is where we talk about what I call sleep hygiene. Well, not is a recognized term, obviously,
Term, right.
scientifically, sleep hygiene, which is where now, when we get to that time, Kim, that you said, okay, this is when I'm going to go to sleep, as we approach it, we have to have certain systems and practices that we rehearse,
Like
that
turn down
begins
the
to tell our body,
lights.
right? So it may be that, first of all, we pack away all the things that we're normally working on. If it is that you're sleeping in the same space, if let's say in a 1-bedroom apartment, it may mean that all the things that represent work, you have to pack them away. Or
Out
if
of
it is
sight
that
completely.
out of sight completely. Or if it is that you're going to, you have a bedroom that's separate, then good, you make sure that your bedroom doesn't have work, you're not working in the same
At
space.
all, right.
Right? And then you retire now to your bedroom, or you pack away everything, and then you talk about turning down the light, turning down the noise. A lot of us watching TV when it's bedtime or we're on the phone.
Right.
We need to put these things away. okay? If possible, even into another space, another room, you know, because
Yeah,
some of
no
these,
TVs in the bedroom. I'm
yeah,
no
I
TVs in the
agree with
bedroom
that.
type of person. No
I agree
TVs
with
in the
that.
bedroom.
I've struggled with that over the years. But I believe in that
I've been good
100%.
on that. I've been good on that. And I had a
Well, my
TV in my
wife
room
likes to have
growing
the
up.
TV in the bedroom. That's the problem. So every time we move, we start out with a TV in the room. And then eventually I say, remember, we had agreed,
We had agreed. I grew up with a TV in my room,
We had a
and I
covenant.
know I know how that affected my sleep as a child.
Right.
So as an adult, I'm no TV in the room.
I'm a
No TV in
big
the room.
believer. No TV in the bedroom. So when you're ready, you're retired there. But for some people, because they may not have the space, you make sure you
Yes.
turn off the TV, right?
Right.
And then you lay down and you go to sleep, and then you get into what I call mental hygiene now.
Right.
When you get into mental hygiene now, this is now purging your mind of all the
Women definitely need to get into mental hygiene because our brain goes
yeah,
24/7.
absolutely.
We're always thinking about something. But
but
what I've added to mine as well for mental hygiene is before that whole sequence of shutting down completely, just writing down the thoughts. So it's
that's a
like
good one.
just getting it out.
That's a
And
good
I
point.
find that when you write them down before bed and you plan the day, like you think of the things that you need to do before bed, then it's like it's in your brain still, but at the back, because when it's at the front, it's like your brain reminding you to not forget. But when it gets at the back, no, your brain can like just ruminate on it a little bit. But you're not conscious. So it's in your, it's in your unconscious mind so that you're able to not be bombarded with all this information while you're trying to go to bed. Your brain is like, okay, she wrote it down, she won't forget it. So it's not
Powerful.
bothering you anymore.
No, that's powerful
Because
because
yeah.
one of the things that mental hygiene really is really about packaging information. Just like when you're in your house, you can have all the same things in the house. Like when my wife and I are totally different. She's very neat. I am neat to an extent, but I'm not that caught up in things being absolutely neat. So, so what will happen is that I'll take everything out, but then she wants to put everything back in, pack it up. It's the same stuff, but when she's finished with it, the place looks neat because it's all packaged into a specific
Organized,
location. You
right?
understand?
Everything
While
has a home.
there you go. So it's the same way with our brains, really. Our brains work best when things are packaged, just like on a computer. If everything is on a desktop, unless you have a Mac, it takes a long time to load up, right? But if you
Right.
begin to put them in files, then you find that the computer works more smoothly, right? So it's the same thing with our brain. So whatever technique you use, it's really about packaging information. So I love your
Right.
idea because what it does is
Yeah.
that it actually allows you to go to sleep feeling like you have accomplished something because you put down these things
Absolutely.
and you have a plan. Okay, I'm going to deal with this tomorrow. So I
Right.
love that. I absolutely love it. What I do is that I have a different approach to that. What I tend to do is that I'd say, okay, you're gonna go to bed, you lay down, you close your eyes, and you begin to go through the day,
Right.
right? And this is more of a retrospective thing rather than a prospective thing, which is what you're talking about. So retrospective is like, all right, what did happen during my day? I start from when I woke up in the morning, and I start going through each thing that that comes to my mind, and the things, and I begin to express gratitude for the things that went well. I begin to give thanks because the science does show that there is a
Yeah.
positive hormonal effect when you
To
have an
giving to
attitude of gratitude.
gratitude.
Yeah. I'm
Right.
like, Lord, thank you so much. I got up this morning, I had food to eat, I had clothes to wear, and then I begin to go through things, some things that might seem trivial. And then, I went, okay, I saw ex-patients and I was able to help to solve the problems for all of
The
them,
problems. Right.
and I can feel good that somebody's life is better off because, and I go through all of these things. Most of the time, I don't make it to the end of the day.
Can you fall asleep?
Because I fall asleep.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like the gratitude aspect of that. But I have a but. Because for like mothers and women who I said that they don't have like a time between each day, for them, they might be going to the day and they realize that I did nothing for me. And now it becomes a stressful event going through the day one by one. Like, boy, I'm wake up from 5 o'clock, I get the kids up, rush to school, especially in a home where you don't have a partner and you realize all these things that you did today and that you have to do them tomorrow. You can get a feeling of dread. I've heard lots of women
I never
complain
thought
to me
about that.
about this. So for women, and women, especially women who they have a lot of responsibilities in the home, I definitely think what they should do is just identify 3 things that they're grateful for, and just think on these 3 things. Because if you think about the entire day as a woman with kids who works, you might get a little overwhelmed because you realize that you have to do the same thing again tomorrow.
Well, then it depends on your perspective, though. I think
It really
sometimes,
does.
things depending on our perspective. For example, there are things that happen many times in the course of the day that are
You
bad,
missed.
that I would think to be bad. So, for
But when
example,
you lie
a
down, you think
colleague,
of it
you
as
got
good.
into a conversation with a colleague that wasn't too nice, and the person said some things to you that offended you, and you're really angry about it, and but you might look at it and you say, well, what can I learn from the situation? It wasn't a good situation, but there are things I learned from it. So even though it's something bad, it actually is something I'm grateful for. You see, depending on your perspective of life, if you are somebody who is a winner innately, and this is how you develop a winning culture, everything works together for your benefit. Even the bad things. You get what I'm saying? Even if you can't see at the time how it is benefiting you, it's still something to be grateful for, because I want to see how this is going to work out for me in the long run, because I expect it to work out to my advantage. For a woman who is pouring out and giving out, there must be a reason why you're doing it. And if it is that you're doing it because you love your kids, or you love your husband, or you love your job, then that's something to celebrate, not necessarily to feel bad about. It's that, okay, I was able to do for the people I love XYZ today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it just depends on perspective.
It does depend on perspective, but also depends on your situation. So, I mean, we can't always throw positive energy on every single aspect of life. Some things we have to actually fix, and
that's a positive energy too.
Like, what can I do? What can I do to not feel so overwhelmed at the end of the day when I'm
there you
looking through my
go.
day?
Yeah.
That can be a way to look at it.
It's processing it. It's processing it. It's not solving it. It's important, that you're not trying to solve it, because
but that's not how our mind works. So that's the difference.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, but I think if it comes into about necessarily solving the problems,
it's more work.
Solving problems, then you're going to be up. You're not going to sleep, because you start thinking and ruminating on it.
Right.
This exercise is more about, okay, I have fixed everything. Not everything is perfect, but what really am I grateful for?
Right.
That's the exercise.
And that is a good exercise.
That's the exercise, because if you figure you're trying to solve it, you're gonna just get stressed out and like, okay, let me get up and go downstairs now, or let me get up.
Let me start. No, let me
go
pack the lunch
computer.
Let me pack the lunch kits from tonight.
Absolutely. It's really more time for yourself to sit down and just start meditating and say, okay, this is the day. What were the things that really went well? What can I be grateful for? And you find something and you just start going through it. The next thing you do that I would recommend, and this is something that is well documented, is really tension release. Right?
And progressive muscle relaxation.
Progressive, yeah. So, and you've told me about this, to Kim. I think, you told me about this, where you contract muscles.
Oh, I'm a patient. know
Yeah,
this because everyone has to do it, no matter what you come to me for, because everybody has tension.
yeah, exactly. So you can talk about that because I
Right.
learned that from
So,
you.
yeah. So the idea of progressive muscle relaxation is it's to first do a body scan to notice the areas, what they're doing at that particular time. So I like to start from the head. Some persons
So
like to
hold on, when
start
you
from
say
the
body scan,
toes.
let's make sure everybody don't think you're doing an MRI or you're doing a CT scan or a PET
So
scan.
I was about to explain it. So I like to start from the head. Some persons like to start from the toes. And it's really just by body scan, it's really just focusing. So if I say, notice your eyebrows, notice the muscles above your eyebrows. And what are they doing right now? Are they pulling your eyebrows upwards towards your head, or are they just relaxed? And if you don't know what it's doing, try pull the eyebrows all the way up to the head as hard as you can, and then let it go completely, right? And then you realize that, ooh,
Feel like I want to sleep
that's
already.
relaxed, right? And then I might ask you to squeeze your eyes as hard as you can, and then relax completely. And then we're doing this, and we're going down all the muscles, wiggle your nose, and then relax it completely. Clench your teeth, then relax it completely. Create a little space between the jawline. And here we go. Pull the shoulders all the way up to the ears, and then relax it completely. And we're going through as we're going down, noticing all the muscles from the head all the way down to the toes. And once you get to the toes now, we take a deep breath in, and then we exhale. I like to say, do a deep sigh, like a big sigh. Right. So it's a little more
Yeah.
detailed than that, a little bit longer than that, but that's just for the purpose of this
No, that's good.
podcast.
That's good. I
Yeah.
mean, I use it. I mean, I usually start from the toes coming up.
Yeah. Some persons start from the
Um,
toes, and I think of the toes like your feet like a cement, like you have cement in them. So it gets heavy on the bed because you've let go the muscles. So now they're just heavy on the bed. And they think of like a cement coming all the way up to the head. So you get heavy on the bed as you let everything go.
nice.
So yeah,
I mean,
I like to go from the head. I don't know why,
you
but
know,
a
I
lot of
mean,
persons like to go
it
from the
works.
toes.
I'll try from the head probably tonight. I usually go from the toes up, but I find that it works. Like most of the time between that process of just that gratitude exercise
Mm-hmm.
and then the tension, I find that I
You're
fall
out.
asleep. Most
Yeah,
of the times
you're
I probably
out.
don't make it to my head. You understand?
That's why I should start from your head.
So I usually, in
You should
fact,
mix it up.
nowadays, I actually don't end up not doing the tension release because by the time I go through the gratitude part,
You fall asleep.
I'm out. So probably I'm going to have some days when I do tension and some
Switch
days.
around, right? I think the reason why I start from the head, I'm just thinking about it now, because my brain have a reason for everything, is because the shoulders are heavy in terms of
Tension.
tension. It's one of
That
the
might be good for me.
most common tension points. So,
Mhm.
I mean, if you don't get to your toes before you fall asleep, you've released the tension in your
Oh, that's
shoulders, which
good. I like
is,
that. That makes sense
yeah.
because that's one of the places I tend to have a lot of tension.
Yeah,
I do
most
have, yeah,
persons
yeah,
traps, traps. It traps
yeah.
the tension.
It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. This
In
is a
fact, I
good
need to get
talk.
into that soon. Yeah, it's good.
This is a good talk. You see? You're not supposed to stay away from me for so long in that
I
can be
know.
like
You see what I'm saying?
if you need to do better. It's always a